May the words of my mouth and the meditation of our hearts be always acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. It is either the height of irony or a prank by the liturgical commission of the Church that the gospel for today, Father's Day, finds Jesus declaring, "I have not come to bring peace, but a sword, for I have come to set a man against his father and a daughter against her mother," and so on. There is an old saying that blood is thicker than water, but it appears that Jesus is saying baptismal water is thicker even than blood. That is, our relationship with Jesus Christ is even more significant than all our earthly relationships, even those with our family. That's all I'm going to say about that this morning, except to wish all you dads out there a very happy Father's Day. But let me turn now to Jesus' first words of the gospel, where he says to his followers, "A disciple is not above the teacher, nor a slave above the master. It is enough for the disciple to be like the teacher, and the slave like the master." The word disciple is a familiar one. It comes up in the Bible over 250 times. It comes from the Latin word discipulus, which means one who is learning. A disciple is a student, a pupil, a follower of a teacher. In Jesus' day, rabbis were teachers of the Jewish law, and they gathered around them disciples who learned the Torah according to the rabbi's interpretation. John the Baptist had disciples. Jesus gathered a group of disciples around him. We know most about his inner circle of friends, who are called the 12. Peter, James, John, Matthew, Andrew, the rest. They had decided that allegiance to Jesus is the most important thing in life, more important than family relationships or anything else. They left everything in order to be with and to learn from Jesus, the ways of God. The radical commitment of true discipleship means catching the same vision of the Master and wanting so much to become a part of it that every obstacle, problem, or deterrent becomes insignificant and unimportant. It is to trust the Master's vision so much that we are able to put aside the normal fears we would otherwise have. It allows us to go on to do the same great things that the Master does. There's a wonderful story about the famous composer Giacomo Puccini, who wrote Madame Butterfly and La Boheme. In 1922, Puccini was stricken with cancer. He told his friends, "I want to write just one more opera." And so he sat down to write Turandot. "What if you should die before you finish your work?" his friends wanted to know. "Never care," he replied, "my disciples will finish it." Well, in 1924, he did die before finishing the opera, but his students did not let him down. Its premiere was held in Milan, Italy, under the baton of Puccini's best student, Arturo Toscanini. The performance came to the point in the opus where the composer had laid down his pen. Tears were streaming down Toscanini's face, but he turned to the audience and said, "Thus far the Master wrote, and then the Master died." And then he picked up the baton again and he shouted, "But his disciples finished the work," and he continued to the end. Some say that was Puccini's greatest opera. Of course, the ultimate end of all this discipleship talk is for us to live a committed life, a life of faith, of trust in God. On February 4th, 1968, exactly 2 months before the Reverend Martin Luther King was assassinated, he was preaching a sermon at Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta. He talked about the drum major instinct, which he described as the desire we all have to be the first in every area of life. Martin Luther King shared how this instinct could be used for good or for ill in our lives. Of his own life, he said, "Yes, you can say that I was a drum major. Say that I was a drum major for justice. Say that I was a drum major for peace. Say that I was a drum major for righteousness. All of the other shallow things will not matter. I won't have the fine and luxurious things of life to leave behind, but I just want to leave a committed life behind." I think in the end, that is what we would all like to leave behind, a committed life, a life lived for God, for something larger than ourselves. Jesus offered tremendous challenges to those who came to hear him preach. His words were not meant to dissuade the prospective disciple, but to awaken those of lukewarm commitment to the serious side of discipleship. Some found the challenges too onerous, and they fell by the wayside. But those who accepted his challenges found them to be the way to fulfillment and to ultimate life. The plain truth is that we humans are so made that we must find something to live for, and if need be, something to die for, if life is to keep for us its dignity and its value, which satisfies the deepest hungers of the human heart. Jesus supplies that challenge for us. Will we accept it? That answer is up to each one of us. Amen.